What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for hanging out. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for all of you who have subscribed and taken that next step of being a part of the community. We are still growing like crazy. I want to try to just continue to bring the real, man, bring the real. So things that you just never would hear talked about at a church, but they probably should be talked about, things that are impacting your life, the culture you live in, how you see the world. And so Shelly had asked me to do this piece, and I think it's awesome. So thanks for this advice here, Shelly. So she said, hey, you've talked about slander and things like that in the past, but no one talks about how to respond in a godly way to slander. I'm going to tackle this today. I'm going to share with you kind of a technique that I learned in business. I will say that you need to be very careful. Slander is warping how people see things, and it is also, it's one of the few things that God says you can go to hell for. Okay, so you want to be careful. And what I'm saying here is, if somebody's slandering you, or you think they are, you want to be careful not to slander them back. Okay, so essentially, slander is when you're changing how somebody looks to another person. Okay, so if let's say, if you didn't like me, well, it's one thing for you to tell me. It's another thing for you to go to counseling and say, hey, I'm going to share with you how I feel about James. I'm not trying to change your opinion. I'm just telling you how I feel, and I would like to know how to deal with that. Or I would just like to get it off my chest. Biblically, that is not slander. Okay. Some people say, oh, well, you talked about me in a bad way. That's slander. No, it's not. It's not. So now, slander is when your intent, and this is why it's difficult, because the intent is in the heart. The intent is to change how somebody views somebody. So for instance, somebody doesn't like you, well, they get their friends or their family or their spouse or whatever to all of a sudden not like you. And that other person doesn't even know you at all, would never, doesn't say anything, doesn't whatever. And the craziest thing, okay, in the Christian community, more than people who are not Christian, okay, is people feel empowered by God to be able to judge people this way. They literally feel like the Bible, and because they hear God sometimes, that, man, they can just judge you, and they're sanctified and justified in it, because they attend church and they, tithe, or they whatever, they raise their hands, or they whatever it is, they have their way of justifying it. But I'm just telling you, it is not biblical. It is not something that Jesus did. And this is the reason why people who slander the Bible, so I've done a whole teaching when I was in youth ministry about slander. I remember all the places in Proverbs and things where it talks about you won't sleep well, you'll be stressed, you'll always be struggling for money, you'll always be struggling. You're basically pushing against the will of God in your life. And it's not the other person's doing, it's not, spiritual, whatever. It's like, it's you, what I'm saying? It's you cursing yourself. And you can get out of it anytime by just repenting and say, hey, I'm sorry for slandering this person. God, forgive me, and help me not to do that again. And you probably want to go back to those people and say, hey, the way I said things and the things that I did were not that godly. And but okay, so in this video here, I want to share with you how do you respond, or should you respond to slander? Now, here's the thing. Okay, here's my thing. If somebody's saying something, if I can categorize it as somewhat meaningless, like the only type of person that would believe that, it will not have any impact on me, my life, my business, my family. Those kind of people, I don't ever try to get involved, because all I'm doing is I'm barking up a tree that person, I'm not going to change that person. That person needs to come to God or whatever. Now, it's different if they want to talk about it. That's different. It's different if they come to me for counseling or something like that, or if they're in my Bible study, or if they're really close friends to me, then I'll probably say something. But if somebody is slandering me, here's how I look at it. That is a natural way for God to filter away people out of my life that are toxic. Okay. Because trust me, guys, you don't want to be friends with those people. Okay. Those people are going to stress you out more. Anytime you pour into them, anytime you help them, anytime you do something around them or whatever, they are going to cause you more stress because it's kind of in their DNA. Okay. It gets more difficult when those people are family, things like that. And one caveat I would put in here is what I'm going to say today is slightly different for parents, because in the Bible, it talks specifically about your parents and that honoring your parents, no matter what they do, it doesn't qualify if they're good or bad or whatever, but honoring your parents is a way to bring a lot of blessing on your life, and cursing your parents is a way to bring a lot of cursing on your life. So, okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty here. So I'm going to give you some actual points here that I learned this in business from a girl who works at Google. I will tell you the number one book to read on how to deal with conflict, whether it's marriage, business, partnerships, church, whatever. The number one book to read is Art of War by Sun Tzu. I think it's Sun Tzu, but you can go on Amazon. It's super cheap, or you can just go on to YouTube and do all these reviews and all these kind of cliff notes of Art of War. Anyway, okay, so here's what I learned. So the first thing is you have to understand in a slanderous situation, okay, the very first thing, I'm talking number one, is to understand this principle. There is no opportunity in chaos. There is no opportunity. I think it says in total chaos. Okay. So what this means is, if people are on the battlefield and there's just all this ruckus going on, well, there's no opportunity. You're just going to die. You will take on so many casualties. You're better off just pulling back. Okay. So what he's saying is, unless you have a strategic move, you're better off just pulling back. So when you see that, and this is difficult for A types like me, and I am not perfect at this. In fact, I have sinned in this area probably 1,000 times. I don't know, 100 times. I don't know, in my life. This is the thing. You might as well not even talk about it. You might as well not bring it up. You might as well not tell people, because there will not be an opportunity for gain in total chaos. Okay. So if you catch somebody slandering you or whatever, there's no opportunity while it's going on. Okay. So you just want to hold those cards back, whatever you want to say, hold your facts back. You just want to hold on for a second. Okay. And this is where patience is a virtue. Okay. Is you have to learn when you're dealing with somebody with slander, because you're dealing with the mind, you have to be patient and you have to be precise and you have to be clear. Those are like the three big things that I learned: patience, precision, and clarity. Patience, precision, and clarity. You should write those things down, because those things are super important. While they're doing all that, while that's happening, you need to start thinking about a plan to draw out clarity. How do I make the situation clearer in terms of the facts, in terms of what happened? Here's now, be super careful here, guys. Okay. Because a lot of you, and I've done this, okay, this can become planning evil. Okay. That is not what I'm saying. Okay. Because planning evil, God hates those who make wicked plans or plan wickedness in their heart. And this is, I think it's in Proverbs 6 or something like that, but it is in Proverbs. There's 6 things that God hates, 7 that he abhors. And it's one of those things is those who plan evil things. So do not start planning your revenge. Do not start, you know what I'm saying? Like, just don't worry about, guys, revenge is for the Lord. Okay. Don't worry about revenge and justice, but clarity, that's a different topic. It's different if I want to clarify my side of the story. That's totally different. Okay. Now, here's the thing. When you're dealing with somebody who is a slanderer, they're going to take you clarifying. They're going to be offended by that. That's okay. I'm going to tell you why you don't have to worry about that biblically, as long as you're toting the line properly on the right side of the line. Okay. Why they're going crazy, why they're talking. I mean, guys, they're just eating it up. They're loving it. They're here's the thing that's really sad. It makes them feel purposeful. Okay, they feel purpose, they feel drama, they feel like they're doing something that's a higher calling. They're, they feel like they're a part of something, and all of it's just pure vanity. It's just pure sin. It's pure just it's just eating itself, and then they don't realize, they leave and they just, oh man, I can't stop thinking about it. It's the torment, it's the demons. They're tormenting them now. And so just let it happen. Don't try to get involved. You're not trying to call down demons. You're not trying to wish demons on them. You wish the demons were not on them. So that's where I'll try to just start thinking through, like, okay, what is my biblical backing here? And be honest with yourself. Do you have a biblical backing? Because maybe you don't. And I've been there many, many times where I thought, even though somebody's slandering me, okay, they could be slandering me for something that I actually did. Okay, so you need to be careful there. Okay, so this is not about winning the war or winning the argument. This is about clarity. And if you're going to be honest with yourself about clarity, you need to be focusing clarity on yourself as well, just as much as you are on them. If not, you're just becoming them. Okay, so the last part, kind of in the formula here, though, I'll tell you kind of how it all blends together, is you need to hit them when they're not expecting it. Okay, so now some of you may go, oh, that sounds good. Some of you may go, whoa, that sounds bad. Okay, let me explain. So in the Art of War, it talks specifically about, if you're going to lob over, artillery, well, you certainly don't want to do it when they're ready for it. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you've tried to find there's a fine line here between manipulation and they're just not ready for it. The fact that because the reality is, at some point, especially if you stop talking about it, they get bored. They get bored with it. What you want to do is, when you're going to address it, you want to do it at an opportune time when they are not expecting it. Okay. So you need to be careful. And there's different modalities that you can use, such as in person, text, call, email, things like that. Okay. So for instance, there's been times when I will use a meeting that's happening, and then in that meeting, when we're talking about subject A, I will bring up the clarity on blah, blah, blah. And we're not really supposed to be talking about that. But because we're there, I'm going to leverage that and say, hey, since we're all here, since we're all at the table, let's get this taken care of as well. Here's my side of the story. Another way you could do this, okay, is instead of pulling it on them when they literally have no idea, you could telegraph it. So you could say, so the telegraphing method would be something like, hey, at the end of this meeting, I want to talk about this. And you might let them know that right before the meeting. Okay. Because sometimes if you let them know too far ahead, they're not going to be there. Also, it can be an email. I have found a lot of success in text and email. Now, certain people won't like it. There are personalities who won't like this. They'll be like, oh, dude, I can't believe you brought that up again, blah, blah, blah. Well, dude, if you weren't a part of talking the shizzy, then I wouldn't have to bring up the fizzy. You see what I'm saying? Like, so what I do is a lot of times I'll put them all on an email or put them all on a text, and I'll send out the facts. And let me tell you something. I'm gonna curse here, so if there's any kids in the room, make sure you turn down your volume or something. But there's this old saying in business that when two different people are telling two different stories, get all the lying motherfuckers in the room, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you get them all in the room, and at some point, you basically call them all on the carpet and say, hey, dude, you're saying that. Which one of you is telling the truth? Dude, I can't tell you how many pastors have said to me one story, and then they tell someone else the exact different story, right? And they tell the other person, and it doesn't have to be a pastor, it could be anybody, right? But they say, oh, I understand where you're coming from, Miss whoever. And then they come to me and say, oh, dude, I understand where you're coming from. It's like, dude, like, you're basically playing both sides of the fence here, and I'm not asking you to be on my side or that other side. I'm just saying, have clarity, dude, have clarity in what's going on, and have consistency. You want to make sure you are cautious in how you do it. For instance, if you have some really aggressive people in business that are more powerful than you have to understand, like, authority and laws of leverage, who has more leverage on who. you may not want to call out certain people who have more leverage on you. Okay. You may want to do that more face to face in the group setting. So you see what I'm saying? The different modalities, the modality that I pick is going to greatly be determined by the leverage people have. Okay. If nobody has really any leverage on me, then I'm just going to send it out in a text because it's probably easier, or an email because it's just easier. You know what I'm saying? It's less work for me. It's easier to communicate. Another way you could do it is do a video. Okay. So I started seeing this with celebrities, a lot of Instagram people, and actually one of my clients where he got a divorce, and he addressed his divorce on his big YouTube channel that we manage. So he did like a 20-minute video, explained some things, didn't slander her, but he just said, hey, this is why we did this, blah, blah, blah. And he kind of accused her of some stuff, but whatever. And then so she did one back. Okay. And then that was it. That ended the beef. But I don't know if that ended the beef, but they both got to share their sides of the story. You could listen to both and pick, what you want to do. And if you cared about them both and you were close, you might call them or whatever. Okay. So this is something that I wanted to say is there is a biblical principle around accountability and accountability in accusation cases, Deuteronomy 17 and Numbers 5. And this is where the US law comes in, where it says people are innocent until proven guilty. Okay. So innocent until proven guilty. I don't know anybody who doesn't agree with that. People don't realize that is actually from the Bible. Okay. And so the Bible in this scenario here, it's talking about, the scenario is a husband and a wife. And it says like, look, if I can't remember who it says but it says, look, if the husband cheated on the wife, then, and the wife suspects it, then the wife can bring that case, the accusation, before the priest. But that doesn't mean that he is guilty. Just because you bring the accusation doesn't mean that he is guilty. And so, now this may offend some people, but just because you accuse somebody, or you think it, or you think God told you or whatever, that doesn't have anything to do with relevance of did it actually happen. Okay. Now here's the thing. Slanderers, they don't care about that. They only care that they're making an accusation, and they need to feel that sense of purpose. Okay. So they're insecure, they're blah, blah, blah. And they go, dude, these are the common lines. And by the way, you can look at, there's psychologists, there's counselors who talk about this. There's like hundreds of blogs that I've looked up on this topic before, but the common things you will hear them respond with is, I always knew. That's a phrase. I always knew the person was like that. I always knew. And so Christian counselors say, well, dude, if you always knew, why didn't you say something? Because you didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Because it's actually your problem. That's how you live. You know what I'm saying? That's not actually what you thought. So like, when that accusation comes forward, the priest is to say, where's your evidence? Do you have a testimonial? Do you have somebody who will say, hey, I saw this, I saw that? And you need firsthand witness testimonials. You can't just say, hey, somebody said something to somebody about this, about this, about this, and I don't know why blah, blah, blah was doing this, but it just seemed like this. Now, if you don't have the facts, here's the deal. You cannot, it specifically says you cannot get a divorce under the law of God. You cannot get a divorce. It's basically in generalizing it. It's not just talking specifically about divorce, but it's also making reference to your accusation is not an admission of guilt. Just because it's an accusation, you need to bring facts. So a logical person would also say, well, dude, what about all the times when somebody has something that they have a hunch on, but they don't have any facts, right? Or the other person is just lying about it. Okay. So what do you do then? Well, the Bible says that you need to trust God to bring vengeance on that person. And if you don't, and you try to do it, you are bringing a curse on yourself. Okay. And so it specifically says you don't have the right to divorce this person or to judge this person or whatever, just because you have an accusation. Okay. So this may be shocker to some of you. You may think, oh man, well, I swear to God, my dad or my cousin or my business partner or whatever. Well, the question is, do you have a valid accusation that has real evidence? Some of you may be going, yes, I do. Okay. Well, then bring it before court or bring it before the judge or mediation or friends. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, you bring it before friends, say, hey, I want to get us together and talk, and so-and-so is going to mediate between us, right? So I want to come back with that all said to the scenario here where you are deciding, how are you going to respond? If you're going to respond, I want to tell you that most of the time you might be better off not responding. Okay. And in fact, probably half the time when I feel like there's slander, maybe more than that, honestly, maybe 60 or 70%. When I think somebody's involved in slander, I have nothing to say because it doesn't impact me. But for that 20% or so, when it does, then this is the methodology that I would use. And here are some of the big principles that I've learned through the years in doing this in many, many different ways. Number one, if you're going to fire back with clarity, not with vengeance. Okay. You need to say it. You need to be clear because trust me, you want this to be a one-shot deal. Okay. What you don't want to do, and I would just greatly encourage you, is don't get involved in a back and forth and a huge whatever. Okay. Because here's the strategy, and I'm going to end it on this, guys. Okay. You might be saying, well, dude, what is the point of this? What is the point? Why do you have to, if somebody's slandering you, whatever, why not just let it go? Okay. Well, here's the thing. It may affect you, your business, your relationships, your family. If you have kids, just remember, if somebody's accusing you of something, you probably want to deal with that in the moment or somewhere near in the moment. Wait for the opportune time, because as your kids get older, they may be aware of that. I want to make this point very clear. There's a lot in the Bible around the word accountability. Okay. And what you're doing when you do this right, this is so true in business, by the way, is you are now sliding accountability across the table to them. Okay. So if they're slandering you, not only is God going to judge them for slandering you, but truthfully, they don't even know your side of the story. So there's nothing for God to really judge there, because they don't know. Okay. But once they become aware, then it's on them in a whole different way. The other thing is the weight of it, you will realize, is so much off your shoulders because you finally got it out. And your point in getting it out is not to tell them off, is not to win them over. Okay, which you might think this is your point. It is not, because I'm telling you, you will not. If you do, it is a rarity. But that's not your point. Your point is not to win them over. Your point is to bring about clarity, which biblically now makes them accountable for what they said, for what they now know, and what they do with that. Because if they're truly a slanderer and they want to sit in that, guess what they're going to do? They're going to do all the same stuff. But if they're a person of truth, they're going to say, hey, let's try to get together. We're the people of God. We should do this in a godly way. We should bring our issues to our brother, just like the Bible says. By the way, if they don't do that, and they're harboring sin in their heart, because the Bible specifically says to bring it to your brother if you have an issue. And if you don't, then it's all good. But if you actually have an issue, if you're accusing them of something and you don't bring it to them, then the sin is on you. And that is why you fire back. It's not about, maybe fire back is not the best way to say it. It's kind of like my A-type business way of saying it. It's not about aggression at all. It's about clarity, precision, and just getting to the point. So let me know what you think. Hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit. That is what I think, and that is what I've done, and it's worked really, really well. Once again, I appreciate all of you who are part of this community. You guys are doing awesome. I'll continue to be here for you every single day. You guys let me know, and I'll talk to you soon.